You're standing on the tee box. You wind up. You swing as hard as your body will let you, and you watch that ball climb, hang there for a second, and drop out of the sky, way, way shorter than it should. I lived that exact moment for years, and I blamed everything but the one thing that was actually costing me. Here's what I found out after testing this myself, over and over, with my own clubs and my own tired shoulders. If your swing speed sits around 65 miles per hour, the golf ball you've probably been buying is stealing distance from you on every single shot. Not a little. I got back 15 to 20 yards off the tee without swinging one bit faster, just by changing the ball. And the maddening part? This used to be common knowledge. Golfers 100 years ago understood how a ball had to match the player. Then the marketing machine buried it under a wall of shiny logos and tour endorsements. Stick with me, because near the end I'm going to share a trick I found buried in old ball testing research that goes all the way back to a patent from 1898. It cost me nothing, I can do it in my own kitchen, and it added a few more yards on top of everything else. If you play in the morning, in cool weather, or you're just an ordinary weekend golfer with a slower swing, this is going to hit home. Let me take you back to the day I finally got fed up. I was out at my home course, a little municipal track where I've played for going on 11 years. My buddy Dave, who swings about the same speed I do, outdrove me by 20 yards on a par 4. Same tee, same wind. His swing looked lazier than mine. And I stood there thinking, how on earth is that happening? So I did what most of us do. I assumed it was me. My age, my back, my tempo. I figured I just needed to hit the gym, or take a lesson, or swing harder. What I did not question, not for 1 second, was the little white ball sitting on my tee. That ball, I was sure, was the one part of the equation I'd gotten right. I was buying the best. The same ones the pros play on Sunday. The expensive box with the famous name. That assumption was the whole problem, and it took me an embarrassingly long time to see it. Let me tell you what I was doing wrong, because I promise you're probably doing the same thing. For years I bought premium tour balls, the kind that cost close to $50 a dozen. My reasoning felt airtight. The best players in the world play these balls. They spend fortunes testing them. So they must be the best ball, period. Buying anything cheaper felt like settling, felt like admitting I wasn't a serious golfer. Here's what nobody told me. Those tour balls are built for one very specific kind of golfer. A golfer who swings the driver well over 100 miles per hour. That premium ball has what's called a high compression rating. Compression is just a measure of how firm the ball is, how much it squishes when the club face slams into it. A tour ball might have a compression around 90 or 100. It's built like a coiled spring that only fully releases its energy when a very fast, very powerful swing crushes into it. Now picture my swing, 65 miles per hour, a perfectly respectable speed for a lot of us, especially past a certain age. But when my club head meets that firm, high-compression tour ball, I simply don't have the force to compress it properly. It's like trying to bounce a rock-hard super ball by dropping it from 2 feet. Nothing much happens. The energy that should be transferring into distance just, well, doesn't. The ball comes off the face dead. Flat, short. I was essentially hitting a ball designed to ignore me, and that's the quiet tragedy of it. I was paying the most money to lose the most distance. Every premium dozen I bought was actively working against my swing. I felt like a serious golfer while sabotaging every drive. That's a hard thing to admit, but it's the truth, and admitting it is what finally set me free. So the question became obvious. If the firm ball was too much for my swing, what would happen with a softer one? And why did nobody at the pro shop ever mention this to me? To answer that, I had to go digging, and what I found surprised me, because it turns out golfers figured this out more than a century ago. Let me take you back to 1898. Before that year, golfers played what they called the gutta percha ball. It was made from dried tree sap, molded into a hard, solid sphere, and it was brutal to play. You needed a tremendous, violent swing just to get it moving. For the average person, it was a miserable, distance-robbing rock. Sound familiar? Then a man named Coburn Haskell, working with an engineer named Bertram Work at a rubber company in Ohio, had an idea. In 1898, he wound a long strand of rubber thread tightly around a small core and wrapped a cover around it. He patented it the next year. Suddenly the ball had give, it had spring, and here's the part that matters to you and me. Players discovered they could hit this new wound ball farther without swinging any harder. Regular golfers, not just the strongest men on the course, picked up meaningful distance overnight. Why? Because the ball finally worked with the golfer's energy instead of demanding more of it. The Haskell ball, as it became known, took over golf almost completely within a few years. It won the U.S. Open in 1901 in the hands of a player who wasn't even considered the longest hitter. The lesson was written in the record books over 100 years ago. Match the ball to the swing, and ordinary players get extraordinary results. Somewhere along the way, we forgot that lesson. Modern golf ball science took Haskell's idea and refined it into something we can measure precisely. Engineers now talk about compression ratings, and they've done the robot testing to prove exactly what happens at different swing speeds. When a slower swing, somewhere in the 60 to 70 mile per hour range, strikes a low compression ball, the ball deforms properly at impact. It squishes, it grabs the energy, and it springs off the face with far more velocity than a firm ball ever could at that same speed. I read through testing data from independent ball labs and equipment reviewers who put dozens of balls through mechanical swing machines. The pattern was undeniable. For a swing under about 85 miles per hour, a lower compression ball produced more ball speed and more carry distance than the premium tour ball, not by a rounding error, by a margin big enough to change which club you pull on your approach shots. So the old wisdom and the new science agreed completely. The firm, expensive ball was the wrong tool for my swing. I'd been fighting my equipment for 11 years. But reading data is one thing. I'm the kind of person who doesn't fully believe something until I've tested it with my own hands. So that's exactly what I did, and the results honestly stunned me. Here's how I ran my own experiment, and I want you to picture doing this yourself because it's simple. I bought several different sleeves of balls across the compression range. On one end, my usual premium tour ball, compression right around 95. In the middle, some balls rated in the 50s and 60s, and on the low end, a handful of what the industry calls super soft balls, with compression ratings down in the 30s and low 40s. Then I went to a range with a launch monitor I rented for the afternoon. I hit 10 shots with each ball, same driver, and I threw out the worst and best of each to keep it fair. I wanted the honest average, not a lucky bomb or a cold shank. The tour ball, my old faithful, averaged the shortest total distance of the entire group. Let that sink in. The most expensive ball in my bag went the shortest. My carry numbers were weak and the ball just fell out of the air. The super soft ball, with a compression somewhere around 35 to 40, was the clear winner. I picked up right around 15 yards of total distance on average, and on my best strikes it was closer to 20. The ball launched higher, hung in the air longer, and rolled out farther when it landed. Same swing, same effort, same tired shoulders. The only variable I changed was the ball. I stood on that range mat almost angry, 15 to 20 yards free that I'd been throwing away for over a decade because I trusted a logo instead of physics. And that anger is exactly what pushed me to write everything down, because a video can only hold so much of it. Everything I learned testing ball after ball with these same tired shoulders, I put into 3 books. How to find your real swing speed at your kitchen table without renting a thing. How to match compression to a swing that's slowed down. And the full-fitting system for straighter drives and fewer balls lost in the trees. 402 pages of it, all real content, no filler, the stuff that wouldn't fit here. If what I've shown you so far is already making sense, that's the complete version of it, and you can grab it in one move. Scan the QR code right there on your screen. Link in the description. Pinned comment. The collection is right there. Take it with you to the range and you'll skip the 11 years of guessing I went through. Now let me get specific about the balls themselves. Let me get specific about what actually worked, because I know that's what you came here for. The balls that performed best for my 65-mile-per-hour swing all shared that low compression trait. There's a super soft category from the major manufacturers that sits right in the sweet spot, with compression ratings in the mid-30s to low 40s. One of the softest I tested measured right around a compression of 35, and it felt like butter off the face while jumping off the driver. Another popular one rated around 38 gave me nearly identical numbers. These aren't obscure garage brand balls either. They're made by the same big companies whose tour balls I used to overpay for. They just don't get the Sunday television commercials because slow swingers don't make for glamorous marketing. Then there's a middle tier, balls in the 50 to 60 compression range, sometimes labeled soft feel. Those were a noticeable improvement over my tour ball, but they still weren't quite as long for me as the very softest options. If your swing is a touch faster than mine, say up around 75 or 80, that middle range might be your sweet spot instead. The general rule I landed on is simple. The slower your swing, the lower the compression you want. And here's a beautiful bonus I didn't expect. These low compression balls cost far less than the premium tour balls. I went from spending close to $50 a dozen to spending around $20 to $25 a dozen. So I was getting more distance and keeping half my money. More yards, less cost. That's the kind of math I can get behind. But I know exactly what some of you are thinking right now. You're thinking this only works for people with a launch monitor or a rented afternoon or fancy equipment you don't have. And I want to stop and talk to you directly, because that was my doubt too. I want you to know you don't need any of that to make this change work for you today. You do not need a launch monitor. You do not need a lesson. You do not need to spend a dime on gadgets. Here's the honest, practical way to find your ball with nothing but what you already own. First, be honest about your swing speed, and you can estimate it without any device. If you hit your driver a total distance of around 180 to 200 yards, your swing speed is very likely in that 60 to 70 mile per hour range, right where mine is. If you carry it closer to 220, you're probably a bit faster. There's a simple rule of thumb that's been floating around teaching circles for years. Take your best solid driver carry in yards and divide it by about 2.5, and that gets you roughly in the ballpark of your swing speed. It's not laboratory precise, but it's plenty good enough to pick a ball. Second, buy a single sleeve, just 3 balls, of a low compression super soft ball. Not a dozen, just 3. It'll cost you a few dollars. Then buy a sleeve of whatever you play now. Go to your regular course or range and alternate them. Hit one, then the other, back to back, on the same holes. You will feel the difference immediately, and more importantly, you'll see where the ball ends up. Your own eyes on your own course are all the launch monitor you need. Third, pay attention to feel around the greens too, not just off the tee. I worried the softer ball would turn to mush on my chips and putts. The opposite happened. It felt soft and controllable, and my distance control on putts actually got easier because the ball came off the putter face with a gentler, more predictable roll. That's it. 3 balls, 1 round, your own eyes. Anybody can do this, on any budget, this week. There's no version of your situation where this is out of reach, because I designed this test around the most ordinary golfer I could think of, which is exactly who I was. Now, once I proved the ball made this much difference, a new question started eating at me. If matching compression to swing speed is this powerful and this obvious, why did I never hear about it? Why did the guy at the pro shop always steer me toward the expensive box? That's where this stops being a story about golf balls and starts being a story about who benefits from your confusion. Let me tell you what I figured out, because it made me a little hot under the collar. The premium tour ball is the most profitable, most heavily marketed product in the entire golf equipment world. Every televised tournament is a 4-day commercial for those balls. The best players on earth, all of whom swing well over 100 miles per hour, play them and win with them. And the message pumped into all of us, week after week, is painfully simple. Good golfers play this ball. If you want to be good, play this ball. Nobody ever adds the crucial fine print. This ball is engineered for a swing more than 50% faster than yours. For you, it's the wrong tool. The whole system is built to make you feel like the low-compression ball is the beginner's ball, the cheap ball, the ball you graduate away from as you get better. It's positioned as lesser. So millions of everyday golfers with moderate swing speeds, the exact people who would gain the most yards from a softer ball, walk right past it out of pride and reach for the expensive box that's quietly costing them distance and money at the same time. I don't think it's an evil conspiracy in a smoky room. It's simpler and more ordinary than that. It's just marketing doing what marketing does, selling the aspiration instead of the truth. The tour ball is real and it's excellent, for the tiny fraction of players who can actually compress it. For the rest of us, we got sold someone else's tool, and were made to feel proud of the mistake. Once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it, and it made me hungry to find every last hidden yard the marketing had kept from me. Which brings me to the thing I've been promising you, the trick I found buried in old ball research that costs absolutely nothing. Here's the secret I saved for the end, and I still can't believe how simple it is. When I was digging through decades of golf ball testing, going all the way back to the principles behind that Haskell patent from 1898, I kept running into a variable that had nothing to do with brand or price or compression rating. Temperature. The temperature of the ball itself at the moment you strike it. It turns out a golf ball is a spring, just like Haskell proved over a century ago, and the springiness of that rubber core changes with how warm or cold it is. A cold ball is stiffer, less lively, and it deforms less efficiently at impact. A warm ball is more elastic and gives back more energy. The testing I found showed that a ball can lose roughly 2 yards of distance for about every 10 degrees Fahrenheit it drops below room temperature. A ball that's been sitting in a cold garage or a chilly trunk overnight, down around 40 degrees, can come off your club noticeably shorter than that exact same ball at 70 or 75 degrees. Think about that for the slower swinger especially. We're already fighting for every yard. And if you play early mornings or in the spring and fall when it's cool, you might be losing 4, 6, even 8 yards to nothing but a cold ball, on top of whatever the wrong compression was already costing you. So here's what I started doing, and I tested this too. The night before I play, I keep my golf balls inside the house at room temperature, never in the garage or the car trunk. Then on cold mornings, I keep 2 balls warm in a pocket close to my body, and I rotate them. I play one ball for a couple of holes, then swap it for the warm one from my pocket, and let the cool one warm back up. It sounds fussy, but it takes 0 effort once you get in the rhythm, and I measured a real gain from it on cold days. A few free yards, pulled out of thin air, using knowledge that's essentially been sitting in plain sight since a rubber company in Ohio figured out what makes a ball spring. One important warning, because I know someone will try it. Do not ever try to heat a golf ball artificially in a microwave or on a heater. That damages the ball and honestly can be dangerous, and it violates the rules for competitive play anyway. Body heat and room temperature are all you're after. Gentle and simple, that's the whole trick. So now you've got the full picture, the same one I had to piece together on my own. A ball matched to your slower swing in the low compression super soft range. A simple 3-ball test to confirm it on your own course. And a free temperature habit that squeezes out the last few yards the cold was stealing. Put those together and the 15 to 20 yards I gained is realistic for you too, without swinging one bit harder or spending $1 extra. In fact, you'll probably spend less. Let me tell you how it felt the next time I played Dave. Same par 4 where he'd outdriven me by 20 yards and made me question my whole swing. I teed up my new super soft ball, kept warm in my pocket on a cool morning, and I swung the exact same tired swing I always have. And my ball sailed past his. Not by a little. I stood in his old spot, 20 yards ahead, and he just looked at me and asked what I'd been doing at the gym. I told him the truth. Nothing. I just stopped playing the wrong ball. The look on his face was worth every hour I spent testing this. That's the feeling I want for you. Not the yards, though the yards are wonderful. It's the feeling of getting back something that was quietly taken from you. For years I thought my distance problem was my body failing me, my age catching up, my swing falling apart. It wasn't. It was a ball built for somebody else, sold to me by an image I bought into. The moment I reclaimed that, golf got fun again. I wasn't fighting the game anymore. I was working with it, the same way golfers were meant to since 1898. If you're the kind of person who's suspected all along that a lot of what we're told to buy is really just marketing dressed up as wisdom, then you and I think alike. We're the folks who'd rather test something ourselves than take the salesman's word for it. We'd rather understand why something works than pay extra to feel fancy. That instinct you have, that little voice that says, "This expensive thing might not actually be better for me," listen to it. It's usually right. It was right about the golf ball. Now I want to hear from you, and I mean this specifically. What's your driver swing speed, or your typical driver distance, and what ball are you playing right now? I'm genuinely curious how many of you are slower swingers, still playing a firm tour ball, because I was there, and I want to know I'm not the only one who got fooled. Drop it in the comments below. Don't just think it and scroll on. Actually type it out, tell me your distance and your current ball, because I read these and I answer them, and other golfers, your speed, are going to learn from what you share. If this pulled back the curtain even a little, then come along with the rest of us who are digging up the practical knowledge that got buried under logos and price tags and slick commercials. Subscribe and stick around, because next time I'm testing something even the pro shops don't want to talk about. I found out that certain used and refurbished balls, the ones sold for a fraction of the price, can perform almost identically to the box-fresh premium versions for a slow swing, and I ran the test to prove exactly which ones are worth grabbing and which ones are junk. You won't believe how much money that one's going to save you. I'll see you there. This video gave you the overview. Inside the Old Ways circle, I continue right where we left off, with the full low compression fitting for slow swings. And if something puzzles you, ask me directly. A real person, me, answers you myself. You won't be alone. Thousands of Old Ways folks are already in there with me. Just point your phone's camera at the code on the screen, and you can cancel anytime with one click. Now that you've found the right ball, let's make sure your clubs match your swing too. The next one shows you the perfect set for smoother, longer shots. It's starting right here.